So, a couple of weeks ago, I finally woke up after being in a month-long coma after getting into a road accident. It was horrible. I'm injured all over, but I'm slowly recovering, and thankfully, my life was spared. I'll forever be grateful for that, at the very least. Anyway, like I said, I'm recovering right now, and my husband has been visiting and staying over almost every day. I'm still in the hospital because of my injuries and everything, but in a couple of weeks I think I'll be fit to go home. I was obviously very happy to see him, and the rest of the family has also been coming over to check in on me. For the first few weeks, I didn't notice anything, but then I started to realize that my mother-in-law hadn't been coming over to see me. I honestly did not notice it at first because, quite frankly, she and I don't really get along well. She's never liked me, and I've never liked her, and we've always been at loggerheads. I've been with my husband for 7 years, and we've been married for 4 years, and she's always been against me. I think she's just insecure of me or something. She doesn't like the fact that I'm a working woman who doesn't want kids. She doesn't like the fact that I make more money than my husband and that I have my own company, which I devote more time to rather than sitting at home and trying for babies. It's gotten worse in the past couple of years because I'm in my late 30s now, and I've always known that I don't want kids. But she's the kind of person who just won't let it go, and has been trying to convince me and my husband to start trying, because it's better late than never. She doesn't seem to understand that we just don't want kids, and that we are fine just the way we are. Anyway, these are a few of the reasons that she's never liked me, and she has never bothered to hide it either. Neither have I ever bothered to put up any act of liking her. So it kind of slipped my notice that she hadn't been showing up to visit me, even after I had been in such a terrible accident. But slowly, I started to think about it, and eventually, I just asked my husband if I'm being honest. I didn't really care about the fact that she hadn't shown up. Made no difference to me. But the only reason I was asking was because I was curious as to why she would do this. Because as far as I was concerned, the only reason we had even kept in touch with each other for so many years was because whether she cared about me or not, I knew for a fact that she cared about appearances, and she wanted people to think that we were one happy family. I was never that bothered about it, but in front of people, she always tried to be nice to me. So it was kind of weird that she hadn't bothered to show up even once to visit me in the hospital. And when I asked my husband about it, he started beating about the bush. But a couple of visits later, he finally told me the truth, and I'm honestly shocked that a human being could stoop to such a low level. Apparently, 3 weeks after my accident, while I was in the coma, and my husband had started to lose hope, my mother-in-law had tried to set him up with somebody else. Yep, you read that right. He was still grieving, and I wasn't even gone yet. I was just in a coma, and yes, there was little hope, but I was still there. And while I was still alive, she decided to try and ruin our marriage somehow. Unfortunately, she didn't succeed, and in fact ruined her relationship with her son and her reputation in the family as well. Basically, she had been coming over to see me while I was in the coma, pretending to be very sad about everything. But then one day, while my husband was going back home, she decided to accompany him on the ride back and started to tell him that she knew he was probably feeling like everything was hopeless and that he would never be happy again, but he still had a chance at life. And given my predicament, he should be appreciating the life that he has more than ever. Obviously, my husband thought that it was going in a very different direction, but then all of a sudden, she started saying that he still had a life, that he could turn around, and she knew that she had a lot of friends whose daughters would be more than willing to go out with him and build a life with him in case anything were to happen to me. And this would be a better life than the one he had now. But that's just her opinion, because these women would be willing to have children, and they were younger than me as well, so it would be realistic too. She was telling him that he could still start from scratch. He could still turn it all around and have the life that he wants, not the one that he has to live because of me. Naturally, my husband really lost his cool at his mother because of this, and she tried to cover it all up, saying that she knew he was grieving, but at the end of the day, he had to be realistic and practical as well. And if something were to happen to me, which she thought was pretty likely because I was literally in a coma at that point in time, then he would definitely have to move on at some point, and she was just reminding him that his life wasn't over and he could still live for himself now. So not only was she trying to set him up with somebody else while I was still alive, just in a coma, while he was still grieving, she was also implying that all the choices he had made were not his own, but something that he had had to accept because of me. And that was simply not true. He never wanted kids either, and he's perfectly fine living this kind of life. I know that for a fact because I've actually bothered to get to know him instead of just imposing my beliefs on him all the time like his mother does. Anyway, he was supposed to drop her back home, but he didn't. He had her get out of the car after he had a huge fight with her over what she had said, and I don't blame him. He's usually a pretty calm and collected guy, and he definitely does take a stand for me every time he can. But mostly he just tries to keep things peaceful. However, this time she had crossed the line, and she had even had the audacity to tell him that life was giving him another chance to rectify his past mistakes. That's what she thought my accident was, a chance for him to leave me and move on with his life. It was incredibly insensitive, and I don't blame my husband for telling the rest of the family about whatever had happened. So now he doesn't have anything to do with her, and she's been forbidden by my father-in-law and her kids to come and see me in the hospital because whatever she said was disgusting and nobody liked it. Thankfully, my family doesn't know about it, and I'm glad for it because I think they've been through enough with whatever has happened to me. Anyway, after my husband was done telling me, I didn't even know what to say to him. I was just grateful that she's not coming around to see me anymore because I don't think I would have been able to deal with that. Anyway, about a week and a half after that incident, I finally started stirring again, and luckily, I've made it out alive of the immediate danger I was in. But after hearing about this, I told my husband I wanted to speak to his mother because I think I've had enough. And I do have the right to let her know what I think about all this. I thought that he would fight against it. I thought that he would tell me I needed peace and quiet and I shouldn't bother, but instead, he told me to go for it. And that's all I needed. Last evening, I called my mother-in-law, and she picked up immediately, and she started asking about how I was and how she had heard that I was doing a little better now, and she had intended to visit but had been caught up with work. She was obviously trying to be very sweet to me, but I could see through her act very clearly now. I told her to cut it out. I told her that I knew exactly why she hadn't been coming over to see me, and it was definitely not because of work. It was because nobody wanted her around me, especially after whatever she had tried to pull off a couple of weeks ago. I told her that I knew she had never liked me, and that she never approved of my lifestyle choices, and she definitely never approved of my relationship with her son. But at the end of the day, I had been with him for 7 years now, and I have made him happier than anyone else, and I would say the same for him. He has also made me the happiest. So I told her that she should start trying to accept her son's happiness instead of trying to control him all the time. And she should know that he's a grown adult capable of making his own decisions. And it's his decision that he doesn't want children. Besides, he's not obliged to provide her with grandchildren to play with. That's not his moral duty as her son. And if she can't accept that, then she had better just stay away from both of us permanently now. Because I had had enough of her disrespect. And I couldn't believe that she had actually started trying to get him to see other people while I was still alive. And he was grieving, afraid that something would happen to me. I told her she was one of the most insensitive and narcissistic people that I had ever had the misfortune of coming across. And I said I never wanted to see her again. She was about to say something after that, but I hung up once I had said whatever I had to say in order to get all the anger out of my system. She had literally called me a mistake. I was not going to let that slide, and once I had given her a piece of my mind, I blocked her because I didn't want anything to do with her. That was last evening, and this morning I received an email from an address I didn't recognize. But when I opened the email, I instantly knew that it was her. She was basically just telling me that she was very upset about the things I had said, and that she had already apologized several times for whatever had happened, and yet everybody was holding it against her, even though she had only wanted the best, and she didn't realize that people would take it so differently. She said that the only reason she had said all those things to her son was because she wanted him to move in case anything were to happen to me. And it's not like she was wishing for me to pass away or anything. She said that she was just trying to be practical, and she wanted him to know that it was okay for him to move on. And that was all she wanted. She said that she's really deeply hurt and shocked by how everybody is reacting, because she's really not a person like this, and people should know that. But instead, we have chosen to cut her off, and she just doesn't understand why we are acting like this. Like she's some huge villain in our lives and not just somebody who's been misunderstood a bit. I made my husband read that email too, and then I told him everything about whatever I had said to her on the phone call. I don't know if I went overboard or not. I personally don't feel like that, and neither does my husband, but from her reaction, I don't know what to believe right now. Obviously, given everything that has happened in the recent past, emotions are running high, so I just wanted to make sure I had done the right thing. I can't discuss any of this with my family. I don't want them to feel hurt or concerned about something as petty as this. And I don't want to discuss it with my friends because it's too personal. So, AITA for giving my mother-in-law a piece of my mind after she suggested setting my husband up with someone else while I was in a coma recently. Edit. I'm stable enough to type and I'm getting some light work done. Thank you so much for everybody who has shown concern in the comments about my health. Of course, I'm still pretty badly banged up, and it's going to take me a long time to fully recover from all of this. Not just physically, but also emotionally, but for now, I'm taking it one day at a time, and with the support from my husband and the hospital staff and doctors here, I'm sure that I'll be declared fit to go home in just a few weeks. Anyway, for those who want to know, it's okay for me to use my phone and laptop here, as long as I'm not exerting myself too much too soon. Update 1. Hey everybody, thank you so much for all the comments I got, and for the overwhelming response to my post. My husband and I had already had our minds made up, so we didn't really have to think much. The comment section honestly just reiterated whatever we believed already. We don't have anything to be sorry about, period. Especially in a situation like this, when I've been in an almost life-threatening situation and have miraculously survived. only for my mother-in-law to treat it like an opportunity to get her way here. It's despicable, to be very honest, and I don't think I want anything to do with a person like that, and neither does my husband. It doesn't make a difference that it's his mother we're talking about. It simply does not matter anymore after all that has happened recently. So yes, we're not going to change our minds about whatever we've decided. We're still going to stay no contact with her. And if she's unhappy about the fact that we are treating her like this, well, tough. But she brought this on herself, and she has no right to complain. In fact, she lost the right to whine about the situation that she's in, to complain about how she's being treated by the rest of the family like some sort of pariah, the second she started using my accident to her benefit. No decent person would ever do that. And recently, when my husband and his family were all around, I told them that I was really happy that they had also chosen to stand up for me. I'm sure that it can't have been easy for them standing up against one of their own, because I know that my mother-in-law has mostly been loved by the rest of the family, and that's why they put up with her controlling ways. But this time, my father-in-law and my husband's older brother and sister, all of them have decided to take a stand against her. And they want her to apologize to me sincerely, but she has refused. And she has said that she was only saying all those things to my husband out of a sense of duty and practicality. And she's not going to apologize for that. And it's ridiculous that they even expect her to be sorry for something that every mother would do, looking out for her child. Anyway, she has her own ridiculous defenses for whatever she's done, and I don't really care for it. I don't think my husband does either right now. The only thing that we're focused on is getting better and getting me out of here. We don't want to partake in any of the drama, and we definitely don't want my mother-in-law as part of our lives. At least not anytime soon. Update 2. Hey everybody, so it's been a couple of months since my last update and I'm finally at home. I'm still recovering, but I'm doing a lot better than I was last time. In these past few months, I have had absolutely zero contact with my mother-in-law, but the rest of the family has not let that affect them. My father-in-law and my husband's siblings have continued to come over for dinner, to check in on me occasionally, and have treated me like they usually do, never once bringing up anything about my mother-in-law because they don't want to upset me. And I don't ask about her either because, quite frankly, I don't care. But anyway, recently the family got together for my husband's birthday, so it was us, his family, and my parents as well. I don't have any siblings and he wanted to keep it low key, so it was just our families, and naturally this time my parents noticed the glaring absence of my mother-in-law at the dinner. They had been asking me about why she had not been visiting or why she had no contact with us, and I had just said that we had had a falling out. But I didn't explain anything, and they didn't probe either, but this time at the dinner, I guess they just couldn't keep their curiosity to themselves anymore. And they ended up asking why exactly my mother-in-law had been absent from our lives for so long. So finally, after a lot of awkwardness, my husband and I decided to tell my parents. And I told them that the reason we had kept this information from them so far was that I didn't want them to feel hurt or upset by everything that had been said by my mother-in-law. They knew that she and I didn't get along, but to hear somebody saying things like this about their own child, I don't think that they would have been able to take that lightly, and I don't want more drama. They were horrified, naturally, and they told me that I had done the right thing by not telling them because they probably would have been very upset and angry, and they definitely would have confronted her. So it's a good thing that I didn't tell them back then because they already had a lot on their minds, and they didn't need this while I was still recovering. My father-in-law and my husband's siblings also apologized even though it was not their fault. We had to tell them that it was all fine. They also finally brought up what my mother-in-law had been up to all these months, which I hadn't known, but it was interesting to find out. So apparently, after falling out with her own family, she was obviously very upset, and so she decided that she was going to take a break from everyone and go stay with her brother for a couple of weeks. She was probably expecting everybody to come to their senses and apologize to her for treating her badly or something like that. But that didn't happen because everybody knew that this was her own fault. So nobody was going to feel sorry for her, given the situation, since she had literally created it for herself. And the only solution was to apologize to me. But since she was not willing to do that, she was going to have to suffer the consequences of whatever nonsense she had spewed. Eventually, a few weeks turned into a couple of months, and even though in the beginning she tried to keep in touch with her family through messages, phone calls, and emails, in the past few weeks there has been nothing but just silence. So naturally, my father-in-law got a bit curious, and he was about to make a call to his brother-in-law, my mother-in-law's brother, and ask him what was going on. But he knew that this was exactly what my mother-in-law was expecting, so he didn't do it. Eventually, her brother ended up calling my father-in-law, telling him that she had been very disappointed that nobody had bothered to check in on her in the past few months. Nobody had come to visit her, and nobody had even requested her to come back so they could all sort things out with her, and now she has started to feel like maybe the rest of the family didn't even care about her, and they only cared about me and my feelings. Brother said that because of all this, she had decided to leave, and she was not going to file for a divorce or anything. But he was helping her find an apartment a little distance away from everyone, and she was not even going to tell them where she lived, so that they wouldn't be able to find her because she just wanted to be left alone now. Earlier, it was their choice to leave her alone. Now she was choosing to stay away from them, and apparently she had told her brother to pass on the message, saying that she never wanted to see any of these people from her family again because they clearly did not care for her at all. When my husband's family told me about all of this, it literally took all I had not to roll my eyes then and there, because it was so obvious that she was just being dramatic for the sake of attention. She just wanted people to sympathize with her. She wanted to portray herself as a victim, even though she was the one who had said such horrible things about me. And I guess the rest of the family was also able to see through her act. They told me that they had not fallen for it at all, and they were perfectly content with not speaking to her because she was the one who had made the choice to leave all of them and stay away from them, rather than just do the easy and more decent thing and apologize to me. Didn't even matter if I forgave her or not. Just apologizing sincerely would be good enough for her to at least redeem herself a little bit. But she was not willing to do that. She just wanted to play the victim, even though she was definitely not one. My husband and I were also very annoyed by this whole turn of events, because she was trying so hard to push the narrative that her family was heartless and they only cared for me, whereas in reality they would be more than willing to take her back. But only if she did the right thing. Is that really that hard to do? Is that so much to expect from somebody? I just don't get it, to be very honest. Anyway, for now, everybody has agreed that until she comes to her senses and apologizes, nobody's going to have anything to do with her because, to be honest, things have come to a point where it's impossible to go back. I can understand that, and I can understand that this is hurting the rest of her family as well, including my husband. She doesn't seem to care about it at all. It's appalling that she has refused to apologize, even though it's hurting her own family. At this point, it's not even about me anymore, and I can tell that this has just become an ego trip for her. She wants to see who will snap first, and she knows for a fact that it's not going to be her. For her, nothing is more important than her own ego, and that's what's going to take her down eventually, because her family has been able to see through her whole act, and they're not falling for it. They're not going to go crawling back to her just because she has threatened them with the possibility of never speaking to them again. It's going to hurt them, but I can see that they are brave enough to face it, and I just hope she's brave enough to face the consequences of her own actions as well. Because the way she's acting, I can't imagine ever making things work with somebody like that. I mean, this whole situation is just so toxic. And she doesn't even seem to care about it. I can't even imagine what my father-in-law, my husband, and his siblings must be going through because of her. But they have been so brave and reasonable about the whole thing that I really have to tip my hat to them. So that's the situation for now, and after hearing all of them out, we resumed talking about normal things because I think this was upsetting everybody too much. And we didn't want to carry on speaking about it. After everybody left, though, I had a chat with my husband, and he told me he was actually pretty upset with the whole situation regarding his mom because, in spite of everything, it was still his mother that we were talking about. I comforted him, and he finally spoke about her after refusing to talk about her or even acknowledging her for several weeks. He ended up crying a bit, and I think it's a good thing he did. But I know for a fact that he's not going to be talking to her unless she apologizes. Probably not even then, because so much time has passed and she has had every opportunity to make things right, but she's chosen not to do it just because she wants to show herself as the superior one here. I honestly feel bad for all of them, but I can't do anything to fix the situation, so I guess we're just going to have to deal with it. Update 3. Hey, so it's been 2 years since my last update, and I've recovered pretty well. Of course, nothing is ever going to be the same as before, but I'm doing well. I've regained mobility, but I don't drive anymore. It's a bit problematic, I know that, but it's just too much to deal with. I have major PTSD after the accident, and I'm trying to deal with it, but for now, I either just take cabs or public transport, or I let my husband drive me. I don't get behind the wheel myself. I'm not emotionally ready for that yet. Anyway, all that aside, things with my family and with my in-laws have also been going pretty well, just like they were before. In the past 2 years, there has been no attempt from my mother-in-law to try and reach out to her own family, and by now everybody has gotten used to the fact that she doesn't want anything to do with them. I guess she's moved on with her life, and even though my father-in-law and she have not filed for divorce, they have accepted the fact that they are separated now. It's sad for them, but I guess they have accepted this, and well, that's all there is to the whole situation, but whatever, who cares? I'm happy, my husband is happy, and everybody else is doing well, and I think that's all that really counts. Stay tuned for more stories from our girl relationships.